Welcome to SVG-TV News for Friday, September 1st, 2023. I'm Rochelle Batiste. And before we go into the details, we have an announcement. SVG-TV has been experiencing some technical problems with its site on Channel 11 at Great House. SVG-TV has been working to have this problem resolved as soon as possible and apologizes for the inconvenience caused. However, we may unfortunately have to replace the equipment depending on unforeseen circumstances. Thanking you for your patience. And now the details. All schools and technical institutions across St. Vincent and the Grenadines are to be open on Monday, September 4th, 2023, for the start of the new academic year. On radio today, Minister of Education Curtis King said 3 schools will, however, start the new school year on Monday without an assigned principal, but the issue will be dealt with before the week is out.
Commitment from the necessary authority that in the week those appointments will be made. Of course,
those schools are Caliqua, Clare Valley, and Barley government.
That we,
Curtis, those 3 schools are Caliqua, Clare Valley, and Barley government primary schools.
Yes.
But there will be teachers in charge.
Of course.
Good.
Yes. And with regards to 2 technical centers, Barley, where the then principal of that school had applied and was successful, she is now the senior education officer with responsibility for TVET. And we have advertised that post, so soon that will be filled. Similarly, that at Petty Bodell, where we are expanding that program, and so there's need for a full-fledged principal there. And these will all be done within the week so that staffing is adequate.
In regards to supplies for the various schools, Minister King noted that every year these institutions will make their requests and that they have already distributed supplies to most schools, including those in the Grenadines. With regards to furniture, Minister King said requests by principals have been made and they are in the process of meeting these requests.
There are going to be cases where we might not meet that request fully, but we know that the necessary adjustments are always being made to ensure that the students are at least comfortable until they get that furniture. The major issue basically where there are some work to be done has to do with cleanup on those schools where Baxter did work that went beyond, say, the basic, the electrical, the plumbing, and so on. There were some schools that Baxter had to do some work. I'm talking about under the special school repair program that we have every year. But most of these have been completed, but as I'm saying, there are some. For example, Belmont. I already mentioned in Belmont here. Since then, we had an issue with something in the kitchen, and that was reported by the principal, and that is being dealt with. So those sort of little things that need to be done are actually being done even as we speak. So that come Monday, we won't have a perfect situation, but certainly all the schools will be in a situation where the children, the teachers and other stakeholders will be comfortable and in an environment conducive to learning.
On the 9 schools being constructed under the program of the Caribbean Development Bank, the CDB, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, who was also on NBC Radio today, said he has been advised that overall the pace of construction, particularly at the Girls High School and the Sinclair Dakin Secondary, has been sluggish.
I am not going to give reasons or call anybody name about what is sluggish. They know who they are. But I want to address Girls High School first. And to repeat that the construction progress at the Girls High School had a relatively slow production rate. Discussions between the relevant parties on the government side, the Ministry of Economic Planning and the consultant, they have a discussion with the contractor, and I've been advised that formal notifications of caution have been issued to the contractor. And since then, I've been advised that there have been notable enhancements in the work have been observed.
The Prime Minister also noted on radio today that the start of the new school term or year is always a special time in the country as more people are engaged in the exercise than at Carnival or Christmas or 9 mornings.
You have, if you put in all the children in early childhood too, you have early childhood, primary, secondary, those in the technical institutes, and also the school for special needs, the 3 schools for special needs. And the teachers, you have your head knocking over 30,000. You don't see 30,000 people out on Carnival Day or Christmas time. You will see 60,000 people voting on election day, but not on any of those other days. And then you add the teachers. Then the first day of school in the primary school, one parent at least usually accompanies the child. And we have about 1,800 children going in to secondary school for the first time on Monday morning. And then the first timers for the preschools, carried up by another 1,000 or so. And then there's some new minibus operators on the road taking children. So Johnny P., when you add them all together, you're knocking your head up close to 40,000 people
at one time.
But across the country, from Fitzhugh in the northwest to Kingston, and then from Fancy in the northeast, and then from Kingston you go right down to Campbell in Union Island. Immense activity.
A panel discussion dealing with the implementation of the recently crafted Food and Agriculture Systems Transformation Fast Strategy was held here today at the NIS Conference Room. Chairman of the OECS Council of Ministers on Agriculture, Roland Royer, noted that food and nutritional security is a serious issue of concern for the region, which they have to address.
Food and nutrition security is a serious issue in the region. In recognizing that, the OECS Commission took the lead in developing the FAST strategy, which offers a mechanism for OECS countries to work together to come up with collective solutions. The Ministers of Agriculture in the OECS have demonstrated a real commitment to working together, which is evident by a very interactive, passionate, and informative meeting held yesterday. Our ministers in the OCS has demonstrated real commitment to working together, which is evident by our very interactive, passionate, and informative meeting, which was held yesterday, and we ended actually at 7 p.m. Before this meeting in June of this year, we met at the Radisson in Grenada, where we decided to prioritize regional initiatives to formulate a 3-year program for implementation that will contribute to achieving the vision and goals of the OECS FAST strategy.
Royer said in order to tackle the issue of food and nutritional insecurity, the private sector is a very important stakeholder in the endeavors being undertaken.
We cannot tackle food and nutrition insecurity without the private sector. As articulated yesterday, recognizing that our respective public sectors will not be able to advance the transformation of the agricultural sector alone, member states should place special emphasis on the role of the private sector in economic growth and should prioritize efforts in developing private sector strategy in terms of support to agriculture sector. The private sector is key at every stage of the process, from planning to production to processing to marketing and distribution, and finally consumption. There are several challenges the sector is currently faced with, and with private sector involvement and investment, these issues can be addressed as a collective. I speak of issues of farm labor. Coming from meeting yesterday, we have issues of farm labor in the UCS, and we see that the private sector can assist in addressing that. Transportation and logistics, marketing and distribution, added value and processing, mechanization, and the introduction of new technologies.
The chair of the OECS Council of Ministers on Agriculture further added that while the private sector has a pivotal role to play in addressing the issues faced with their investments, policymakers should ensure they create an enabling environment for these investment opportunities.
That we create the enabling environment for investment. Therefore, from this dialogue today, we expect that the private sector will advise on areas that we, the policymakers, should address in ensuring that your investments are profitable and sustainable. I am pleased with the makeup of the panel here today, which represents key aspects of the role the private sector plays, from export to risk management. As chair of the OECS Council of Ministers for Agriculture, I'm pleased with my fellow ministers to be engaging with you in the room and those who are attending online. It demonstrates the extent to which we value private sector involvement in delivering the FAST strategy. This is just the beginning, and we'll be engaging you more as we implement the FAST.
The FAST strategy was recently launched in Grenada and was created to encompass central pillars inclusive of establishing more efficient and sustainable methods for food and agriculture production, processing and distribution in order to offset rising food costs, ensuring that the general public can access affordable and healthy foods. Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Information Technology, Camilo Gonzalez, has stressed the importance for the case for pension reform here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines be presented in an objective manner and not be politicized. Speaking at the opening of a panel discussion held here on Wednesday evening at the NIS conference room, Minister Gonzalez noted that so far the NIS and its director Stuart Haynes has been the face of the reform movement, and there is a good reason for this.
I not only trust Stuart implicitly, but he knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. And I've wanted to make sure that all of the initial engagements with the public have not had a political face. That they have been objective, that they have been based on hard facts, actuarial facts, and that they have not been based on what color you support. Because NIS reform and pension reform is bigger than politics. And whichever party is in power is going to have to deal with the demographics and the reality of securing the retirement and future of Vincentians. The time will come, I'm sure, for a more robust engagement. The time will come to answer those who say that the government has been dipping its hand into the NIS. The prudential benchmark for exposure to the government is 20%. 20% of the NIS's resources. This government, at the time of the last actuarial study, was at 13%, below the prudential benchmark. And today is at 11%, even further below the prudential benchmark. This is not a government that treats the NIS as a piggy bank. But also, this is not the time for that political discussion. This is a time for the facts to be laid out and the case to be made by objective professionals. And I hope that we all recognize the critical importance of a sound and functioning and sustainable NIS and pension program for the resilience of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's what we're talking about here. Resilience is a cornerstone of development, and one of the critical elements of that resilience building is a sound, well-run, sustainable pension program.
Noting that social security is taking place across the world, including regionally, Minister Gonzalez pointed out that data has shown that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is one of 10 countries in the region that will have to have the conversation on pension reform within the next decade.
They may push it, some may push it off a year or two based on whatever considerations they may have. But the demographic realities facing St. Vincent and the Grenadines are facing every other Caribbean country. More retirees, fewer contributors supporting more retirees. That's a reality that every single country is facing in the Caribbean because of its demographic realities. And we believe that it's better to bell the cat now than to wait till the 11th hour to have this conversation. Your inputs are absolutely critical. The precise contours of this reform package that we will present at the beginning of the budget year 2024 have not been solidified. I've told you the general areas that we want to pursue. But your input, your questions, your comments, your own experiences are very critical to shaping the ultimate package that we will take to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
SVG Grenada Air has announced the launch of a new twin-otter aircraft to connect passengers traveling between Grenada, Carriacou, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which is expected to help improve the reliability of air service between these islands. The twin-otter aircraft, registered as G8GND, has 19 seats and seeks to give SVG Grenada Air customers additional options and easier access to their destinations. According to SVG Grenada Air, the flight schedule has been carefully planned to meet the demands of both business and leisure travelers, with departures on Mondays, Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. The company says this guarantees that passengers have a variety of options to fit their travel plans, and the idea of launching a daily service is being considered with the aircraft. SVG Grenada Air says it looks forward to seeing you on one of its flights between Grenada, Carriacou, and SVG. Activities for Emancipation Month 2023 came to a close yesterday with a special Garifuna concert at Heritage Square in capital Kingstown. The month of activities was celebrated under the theme Embracing the Past, Forging Ahead in the Future. At the Habinaha Garifuna concert at Heritage Square, several persons showcased their Garifuna culture through dances, drumming, poems, and songs. The event, which forms part of the Garinago Language and Cultural Retrieval Program, was hosted by the Regional Integration Diaspora Unit, RIDU, in collaboration with the Ministry of Culture and Tourism and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The performances at yesterday's concert at Heritage Square were executed in the Garifuna language. Here is a snippet of some of the performances.
Come and hear the voice of Garifuna, the voices of Garifuna.
Biansa wen Sisi Irumu Uguye on Sunday, March 11, 1797. Lumagien Wabuganoniwa. We were exiled from St. Vincent, our homeland, which is now 226 years to date. Wafanidara, Inuramame, Wamalali, Kemu, Wabalarong, Wagon, Garinagu, arise.
from Urumi, the Black Caribbean homeland. Up to today, they are still living in Belize.
Because we are your brothers and sisters. We are your brothers and sisters. We and our ancestors could not help the fact that they were taken.
And Chair of Rideau Maxwell Charles stressed the importance of the Garifuna culture to Vincentians.
Garifuna culture is a culture that we should really embrace and teach our children. You know, I could remember many years ago in the 1960s when I grew up and did history as a primary school student. We took our learning and our teachings from the British books, and they taught us differently. As a matter of fact, when I read of the wars here in St. Vincent between the Garifuna and the British, we as school children ended up backing the British somehow, and we looked down on our own people. But personally, it was not until the early 1970s when I went to the Teachers College and we learned differently. And at this point, I want to call a name that we know of in St. Vincent, Michael Brown. And he was our tutor in social studies. And there is where he opened the minds of the teachers who attended college then about the real history of the Garifuna people. And today, as we educate our people, let us become more conscious.
Charles expressed gratitude to the two tutors from the United States who facilitated a month-long workshop as part of the Garifuna Culture and Language Retrieval Program.
So as I was saying, it is time enough that our people understand our culture and understand exactly where we came from. Basically, as you know, we fought against the British. They came in to chase us out. But our warriors were very brave. But alas, they lost the war and we were banished to Baliso. On an island, that's an island not too far from here, no food, no water, unhealthy conditions. But we survived. The British then took us to a place, an island called Rotan. They didn't want us to live back here, our own homeland. And from Rotan, we branched off into the different places in Central America, like Belize, Honduras, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and finally, some of us made our way to the United States, where we are still making a worthwhile contribution. The Garifuna language, the Garifuna people, we are here to stay. So, let us remember also that in many of us here in St. Vincent, we have a lot of people in St. Vincent with the Garifuna blood.
In other local news now, we hear that Petty Officer with the SVG Coast Guard, Damian Franklin, has hailed this year's Youth Development Summer Program a success, noting that the summer program is a great initiative. Leading Seaman Selwyn Isaacs predicts that the program will continue annually for another 30 years. Petty Officer Franklin and Leading Seaman Isaacs were on the Cop Chat program on WFM yesterday, recapping this year's summer program.
30 years is a long time to be doing something, and over the 30 years, we have shaped over 3,800 plus participants from the inception in 1993. So for us, I think that's an excellent job that we did.
The program impacts the lives of our youths, and the vision of Mr. Tyrone James was to actually give the youths of the nation a feel of Coast Guard day-to-day duties and responsibilities. Sorry.
Participant Cleo Allen spoke of her experience during the summer program and encouraged parents to register their child or children in the annual program.
Women, we went on a boat ride. We had a lot of classes where people came in to teach the young people about things of the world, which we need now in our everyday life. So it was a really, really wonderful experience. Getting to navigate the whole trip going to Beckley. That was so fun. I don't know. That was the most exciting thing. Geography, just mapping out how long it is going to take from St. Vincent to go to Beckley, and seeing like children getting an opportunity to experience those things and so on. So yeah, that was very fun, and I get to relax and get to know more friends and stuff like that.
And Petty Officer Franklin said having the opportunity to help shape the youths for life's high seas was the high point for him. Police Elroy Kwame says while policing is consistently changing, the principles must be kept the same. On the Police Beat program this week discussing policing education and the bigger future, Corporal Kwame, who is attached to the RSVG Police Training School, says the force can be advanced with more trained and qualified officers.
When you look at the use of technologies, and we could bring in the Coast Guard, and we could bring in the different tactical units and so on, we are looking at, as time go by, the police force will evolve.
That's right.
And it will evolve with persons who are young now. Then they, they get older, and they, you never stop learning, so you always attain new qualifications, you attain new training and specialization, and as you go along you're able to advance the police force. So I'm looking at a new police force, maybe when we're old and we're gray and we're retired, but we should be able to bank on the new generation of police officers to take us along with the time.
We apologize for the mix-up in the inserts and noted areas of study that will become increasingly important for serving officers with the RSG Police Force. Corporal Kwame says law is an area that a number of officers are gravitating towards.
Looking at psychology, the medical field, separated about the medical field and areas such as finance. Now we have persons who are stepping away from the boundaries, stepping away from what is just known as police subjects, and was once known as, okay, well, if you have a finance, if you have a accounting degree, then you must go work at a bank. But then the police force can utilize the human and all human resource in different ways to uplift the organization. And I think as we go along and persons see things like that, and persons see the opportunity of evolving in policing, you find persons doing more of the law, more of studying within the medical field. Maybe you will in the future, 10 years from now, you may see police nurses, police doctors, right? Persons who are specialized in the area of finance and social work and so on. So these are the areas I think that persons will look to specialize in, psychology and so on.